Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of To the Edge. With me today is Chris Lawrence from the RKO Army, where every month they do the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That's correct. Thank you for having me, Roland.
Not a problem.
Thank you for everybody at BTV for having me.
I've known Chris from way back, since college.
We go way back.
Yep.
Kicking it old school.
He was actually on an episode of my show once, believe it or not, back in 2006 when I was doing it for Brockton. I called it Change the Channel at the time. And now you're here.
I know. Look how far we have come.
Exactly. So, what can you tell us about the RKO Army in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, the RKO Army is a shadow cast. We basically act out portions of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. We also do Repo, the Genetic Opera, as well as some of the Joss Whedon television shows, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We currently do the Firefly episode Out of Gas, and we do Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
Oh, wow.
And what we do is we shadow cast it, which is sort of like, it's kind of hard to describe, but we're acting out the actions in front of a screen. So you'll see somebody in a movie theater, acting out Dr. Frankenfurter or, Dr. Horrible or, Buffy, and we have the movie showing behind the audience. So yeah.
Well, that's a lot of variety. So with Buffy, is that the 1992 film or the TV series?
It's the TV series. There's actually a musical episode called Once More with Feeling, and basically there's somebody, used a magical spell and it summoned a demon, and now all of a sudden everybody's singing and dancing. So we're pretty dynamic. We do Michael Jackson's Thriller. Like actually will do that in that's one of our big October pre-shows.
What is it? Beat It?
No, Thriller.
No, I mean the song.
Thriller. The song is Thriller.
Oh, sorry. Shows how much I know.
Thriller.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, and we're, currently we're always looking for other, films to shadowcast or to take up. I mean, basically, it's kind of whatever we think might be of interest to people to come and see.
So you're adding more variety because. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when it was just Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, we started off as traditionally a Rocky Horror Picture Show shadow cast. We have lineage that goes back to 1978. Our cast director, Roy Rossi, he's one of the first ones that was out there. And, definitely we have that history going way back. And, we're traditionally the Rocky Horror Picture Show shadow cast. And then, at some point we kind of, decided that we were looking to do other things. And we've done other sort of one-shots in the past. Like we've done the South Park movie, bigger, longer, uncut. We've also done Army of Darkness. So that but those are kind of going back to an older era of the cast. But the more modern era, we do the Shock Treatment, which is the Rocky Horror Picture Show sequel, which is kind of little known. It didn't really do very well commercially, and it didn't quite gain that cult status that Rocky did.
A lot of cult movies, they didn't do too well, but then they gained notoriety later on.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the definition, I guess, of a cult film is, you come along and it was out. Rocky was released in the theaters in 1975.
Wow.
But it really didn't gain notoriety until it was started to be shown as a midnight film, 1977, and then that's sort of where the whole cult phenomenon kind of took off from there. At the Waverly Theater in New York City was credited as one of the first theaters where showing it, and basically that's where the whole movement kind of took off.
So does it air in theaters nationwide every month?
Yes, nationwide and even worldwide.
Worldwide.
It's there are casts in Australia, in England. There's even a cast in Israel. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's still. There's pretty much. I don't know if there's a cast in every state in the United States, but some states have multiple casts, like Massachusetts. it's not just RKO Army. There's full body cast. There's also the Come Again players, and then there's the Tesseract players of Boston.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have Rocky Horror in Japan.
You know, I believe they do. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head if they have any current shadow casts, but I know it is a phenomenon that's extended worldwide.
So what got you involved in all of this?
I don't know. It's tough to say. I began attending the film when it started playing in the East Bridgewater cinemas on Route 18. And it was just one of those. I had always wanted to go, and I was a little intimidated by the whole scene, I guess. I honestly didn't know what to expect. I had seen pictures people posted, of people that had actually gone into Boston. The full body cast, they formerly were of Harvard Square, but unfortunately that theater closed at the Harvard Square, I'm going to say Lowe's. But now they've actually moved over to the Boston Common movie theaters. So I had known a little bit about it. I just knew it was going to be something wild and crazy, and was a little intimidated, frankly. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. So that curiosity coupled with, it's right in our backyard. It was in East Bridgewater, and I was like, well, it's not as much of a gamble to go to East Bridgewater cinemas where frankly I'd been going since I was a kid. So I saw they had the show advertised on their marquee, and I was like, I have to check it out.
That's interesting. I think that really adds to the experience because I rented it once. I think it was in 1999 or 2000, and I couldn't get into it. I was like, what's the big deal? And then I realized it's not so much the film itself, it's more the experience. I don't know if it's that way with you.
Oh, it was totally that way. I mean, my first experience to it was, I want to say if I was in 7th or 8th grade, and I had rented it with a friend, and we watched it, and she didn't have any idea what it was, and I didn't. And I mean, I think we maybe knew that there was sort of that cult following or that whole thing that happened at midnight. But we really didn't know anything about the film, so hence watching it, and it was not. it was. I mean, frankly, I was kind of bored. But the experience is definitely the way to see the film. You're seeing it live, and it's not just the cast. It's obviously you're going to see the shadow cast, but it's the whole audience experience. It's that audience participation where people can go and you get up and do the time warp, and you get up and you can throw stuff you're not supposed to throw it at the screen or at the cast, but you can throw rice or you can throw toast, and you're kind of breaking some of these social conventions that like you're not supposed to shout in a movie theater. So that was definitely an attraction to me.
I bet the ushers must love that.
Oh, they love. Actually, a lot of times we've developed really good relationships with our theaters. We're currently at the Foxborough Orpheum Theater. It's right on Route 140 in Foxborough, and we have a great relationship with them, and even some of our past theaters. We're no longer at the East Bridgewater cinemas, unfortunately. But they all loved us. It's like, oh, it's Rocky night. So it's, but the cleanup that's the not fun part.
I was surprised to see so many teens and 20-somethings there. It's a lot of young people for a movie that came out in 1975.
Yeah, it's something I think that appeals to all ages, and it's almost a rite of passage for certain people. And some people will go to Rocky once in their life, and that will be their one experience to that. I mean, other people might come and go, or they're like, oh yeah, I used to go way back when I was when I was a teenager. You're talking to people that are in their 40s or 50s now. But it's definitely has a broad appeal. I think that there's just you can. It's a simple movie. I mean, it's a movie that's sort of a parody of a lot of B movies, and it's really kind of campy fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can kind of extract a lot of different things out of it, or if you're looking for a deeper meaning, you can kind of dig away. But I think it's just the atmosphere. I mean, you go, it's like a rock concert. you know, and at least that's what it's evolved into now. You know, so you can go and so I think it has that appeal, and you know, we actually look sort of to that crowd, that you know, sort of teenage crowd that you know, they want to get out and it's their night to, you know, we see kids coming out and they get out of the minivans, you know, their mom and dad might drop them off and they're, you know, they're wearing sweatpants and sweatshirts, and as soon as mom pulls away, they're pulling that off, and they got fishnets and corsets, and, you know, so it's definitely, it's a fun way to get into some trouble, but you know, you're not really doing anything bad. You know?
Note to parents watching, but it's not your kid.
Of course not.
Now, to change the subject to Repo, I know nothing about Repo, so what can you tell us about that?
Okay, Repo the Genetic Opera. It's a sort of a rock opera, and it was written sort of organically. It was initially like a stage play that was done sort of at like nightclubs, or you know, and it was sort of evolved into a film. It was directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who was the director of Saw 2.
Oh, wow.
And I believe he did Saw 3 and 4. Don't quote me on that, though.
So is Repo actually a newer film?
Yeah, it came out in 2008.
Wow, that's very new.
Yeah,
relatively.
and it was, yeah, it was basically they had this, you know, the theme of you know, Repo Man, and it's sort of in a dystopian future, and you know, organ failures, you know, people looking to modify themselves physically, you know, sort of that. It kind of plays into a lot of, you know, the image obsessed culture that we live in, and people will actually, you know, want to upgrade themselves, you know.
Sounds like we're one step away from that today.
Very true. I think I think you could easily just open up the tabloids and get some of this. But basically, in the film, the Repo Man comes. You know, if you don't pay your bill, you know, the Repo Man will come and take that back from you. So if you you know, had to get some new eyes, or you know, if you had a lung transplant and you don't pay your bill, you know, 90 days delinquent, you know, you get the Repo treatment.
You know what it actually reminds me of? The Vidians on Star Trek Voyager.
Oh yes, yeah, because they're just constantly upgrading themselves. But yeah, Repo, it was, and it was very much a love letter to the Rocky Horror scene, because you know, even there's Darren Lynn Bousman and Terrence Zanunich, who actually plays Grave Robber in the film. You know, they kind of envisioned that sort of a Rocky Horror atmosphere of going to a show, and again with the shadow casting, people getting up and pantomiming the film, and you know, kind of, you know, it's like 1 part pantomime, 2 part lip sync, and you know, you kind of mix it all together, and it's a lot of fun, you know, and it's just this like campy, very gory. I mean, I find it comedic, but some people find the gore factor kind of high, because I mean, again, it's from one of the guys who did Saw. But it's great fun, you know, and I get to play one of the characters, Roddy Largo, who's the owner of Gene Co.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I've seen some pictures of you in character, and it's like, I don't remember this guy from Rocky Horror, so it must be Repo.
Yeah, that would be me as Repo. He's portrayed by Paul Sorvino, you know, and that is it's sort of an ensemble cast. You know, you have Paul Sorvino as Roddy Largo, and of course he had you know, came from sort of an opera background and singing, but then you have Anthony Stewart Head. There's also Paris Hilton, who was one of the more controversial you know, stars in that. You know, some people, of course, that was kind of during the height of the Paris Hilton sort of backlash, like, you know, we don't want Paris Hilton in our stuff, but she actually plays one of his spoiled kids. So I think it's a very fitting role for her. But then there's also Sarah Brightman, who is, you know, a huge name for that. You know, she's big in the opera world, and you know, just her, you know, she has a beautiful voice. And then there's also Alexa Vega, who played, I don't know if you remember the Spy Kids films.
Oh, I remember those. I never saw them, but I remember them.
So she was the daughter in the Spy Kids film. So it's very interesting, though. Yeah.
So in the pics I've seen that you've had gray hair. Do you dye your hair for the role?
I just spray paint it.
Okay.
I mean, not spray paint, but you know, I'll hit up the Halloween stores, or you know, especially during, you know, I'll go to the store during Halloween, buy up a bunch of stuff on clearance, and you know, but yeah, it's spray painted.
That's good, because I don't think anyone would voluntarily dye their hair gray.
No, I mean, I think I do look a little bit more distinguished, but...
Oh, yeah. So, I was going to ask you a question, and then I lost my train of thought.
All right. Well, my other role...
Oh, wait, the roles.
Okay.
Your character. Do you rehearse the scenes, or do you practice your dialogue?
Well, yes and no. I guess if it was a new role that we play, or I should say, if it's a new production, we will have rehearsals. I know when we were first getting Repo, the Genetic Opera, off the ground, that was definitely it was a production, but we were able to really kind of fit into it because we were already up and running doing Rocky Horror. I know there were a lot of people around the country who wanted to do that. They wanted to have their Repo Shadowcast. And it was, and unfortunately, a lot of them didn't survive. Past that sort of newness. People were excited about it, but then once that kind of died off, people weren't quite as enthusiastic about it. But basically, what we will do is sort of you learn the lines on your own, and that's kind of a with Rocky Horror. I know particularly, I had been going for quite a while. So I already knew a lot of the parts. You kind of learn, just through repetition. I mean, you see something 100 times, you're gonna start to remember it.
Yeah.
But we will have rehearsals, and there are certain things that we will maybe go through. Like I know, like one of the characters I play is Eddie, who's portrayed by Meatloaf, and in that scene there's some physical aspect of it, like we do like a little dance with whoever the actor is that's playing Columbia, and we do lifts. So like I'll actually I'm not like lifting her up per se, but but we will kind of run through that, just so that we make sure we're on the same page and that we're going to be safe.
Make sure you actually can lift them up.
Oh yeah. That's. It's not even as much about the upper body strength. It's more. Think of somebody doing a handstand on their arms, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's basically. I'm doing Eddie, so I'm here. I'm kind of planting my feet on the ground, and then I'm taking her usually by the waist or the hips, and I'll sort of push up. And then whoever the girl is that's Columbia, she kind of has to kick her feet.
So it creates an illusion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm literally lifting her up, but just through that centrifugal force of me pushing up and her kicking her feet, we're able to get up to, we call it going to midnight,
Right.
where basically I'm standing up holding this girl above my head, and her arms are sort of locked behind my head, and she's resting her arms on my shoulders. So that's one aspect, but yeah, generally like we do a lot of choreographic rehearsals. Like I know maybe more so for some of the pre-shows where we'll do again Michael Jackson's Thriller, and basically we start like in August, and usually it's like every other Sunday, and the people that are involved with that, and just getting that down, because in some cases we've performed for big audiences. We had a giant show. Was it 2 or 3 years ago now? It was at the Zeitarian Theater in New Bedford. So there was about 500 people there, I'd say,
Wow.
somewhere around there. And then we've also done shows at Lupo's in Providence. It was actually at one of our actors is part of they do like a late night entertainment crew, tight crew, and they'll do a lot of radical audiovisual experience type I guess events. So we actually had gone in, they throw parties essentially, is what it is, and so we came and did the Thriller, and they've also done Rocky Horror themed shows as well. And people are just encouraged to come dressed up. People are, have a good time.
Do you see a lot of people dressed in drag?
Yes, and that's one thing. We love it when people come dressed up to shows. Like, when they come to Rocky Horror, when they come to Repo, or anything. And I think it's sort of an extension. I mean, the whole cosplay. That I mean, which is basically short for costume play. You know,
Right.
people will get dressed up as their favorite characters. You know, and essentially, I think Rocky Horror is sort of maybe some of the beginning roots of that. I mean, I couldn't, you know, say for certain, but it's that's kind of how it kind of organically evolved, where people would start going to these movie theaters and then they'd get up and start acting out the scenes going on, you know, on the screen. And then all of a sudden, people would come dressed up as characters, and it would be almost like who can get the most screen accurate costume. Mm-hmm. And people, I mean, we have one guy down in New Jersey. He actually created his own fabric for one of the costumes, Columbia's corset, and his name is Larry Vizel. He's one of the you know, notable people in the Rocky community, but he actually created his own fabric for this. So it just to get that screen accuracy, though.
That's interesting. Does he actually shave for the role too?
Oh no, this was. I don't know if he's actually played Columbia or not, but it's more, it's like for sale, I guess. You know,
Oh, I see.
it's more for you know, he'll like you know, he's created this for other people in the community.
Oh, sorry about that.
He probably has shaved for it though.
So what can you tell us about when they show the Joss Whedon material?
The Joss Whedon, it's definitely a different like atmosphere, and you know, we do get some different cross audience. You know, we get some people who just come to Rocky Horror. We get some people who just come to Repo. Same with the Joss Whedon, but you know, we do get some crossover. But you know, you get a lot of different you know, fans of the shows, and it's just a completely different experience. You know, we actually just did a triple feature where we showed Dr. Horrible, we showed Buffy, and Firefly episode Out of Gas, and which is sort of it's one of the more notable episodes, I guess.
Can you tell me what that episode was about? I'm blanking at this point.
It's the episode where basically it sort of gives sort of a background history to the crew of the Serenity.
Oh, is it the flashback episode where it shows how they met?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And you know, it's all told in one of the engine pieces falls apart, and then they have to go find a replacement, but it's all told in flashback. So, but it's great fun. I mean, I'm not personally involved in those ones, but you know, those were kind of born out of you know, a love for a fandom. You know, and I think that it's sort of an extension of that Rocky, you know, sort of vibe, where you know, people would, you know, dress up as characters. They'd dress up as Buffy, or they would dress up as, you know, Spike, one of the characters from Buffy, or you know, whenever we do the Firefly show, we always see people. One of the characters, Jane, he had a very unique knit hat. It's like orange and brown, and we always see people with those. So it's
Brown coats.
Yeah, the brown coats. So it's very neat.
That's good. That's interesting. It must be a lot of fun to go to those.
Yeah, I mean, I still enjoy it. You know, it's kind of, no matter how many shows I've been to, I still enjoy going. You know, whether it's Rocky or Repo, and you know, even if I'm in it, you know, it's obviously I'm there to do work. Like, I mean, not that I consider it like, you know, a job, but you know, I can't, you know, screw around. But basically, but if I'm there to watch, you know, I can just sit back and enjoy myself.
And you've been doing this for what, 8 years?
Oh boy, has it been that long? Well, I started going in 2005, and I joined the cast in 2007. So.
Oh, so more like maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think it would be 6 years. So, or maybe a little bit more. I don't know.
Have you converted your friends to Rocky Horror?
I don't know if I really have or not. I know I've certainly tried many times to get people to go. I think a lot of my friends that have enjoyed it. But you've been yourself.
Yeah, I've been there twice. Yeah.
So
my cherry too.
Exactly. So I don't know if I'd necessarily say I converted anybody, but I think I at least opened up people's eyes to it. You know, and
spread the general awareness.
Exactly. And as I said, you know, before, I mean, some people might only go to Rocky Horror once in their life, and so I guess, but it's just something unique. It's a different experience, and it's something that maybe you could tell your grandkids you did. You know, like, oh, well, back in the day, I went to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, that would be fun to imagine.
But you know, I know when I first started going, I kind of felt like it was my responsibility to spread the word, and I had to tell everybody, like, oh, you have to go to this, and you know, and a lot of times I just wanted somebody to go with.
Right.
Because it's like, well, I don't want to go by myself. Who goes to the movies by themselves?
But then eventually you make a bunch of friends through the Rocky Horror, and then...
Well, that's it. You know, I reached a point where, you know, I think I had saturated, you know, I had told people from work, I had told people, you know, all my friends, you know, I'd invited family members to come.
It's all about promotion. You have to advertise as much as you can, and then maybe 10% of the people will become involved.
Exactly. It's like you sling mud on the wall, and you hope some of it sticks. But you know, I kind of reached a point where I said, like, all right, well, I think people know it's there, so if they're interested, they'll come to me. You know, but that's sort of a thing, like, you know, like, oh, how many virgins have you brought to the audience? Because that's what we call, you know, for the uninitiated, we call them Rocky Horror virgins, people who have never been to a live screening of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and watching it on VH1 does not count, or the Y Network, I think it is, or what. But if you watch it on TV, or if you know, rent it, it's just, as you said before, you know, you had seen it on film, you know, I had seen it, and it was just, you're not getting that full picture. But I had always definitely encouraged people, like just come check it out. Like, you know, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly.
You know.
So you might get a bunch of glitter dumped on your head, which, by the way, is what happened to me.
Yes.
You know, it took a month for me to wash that out.
Sorry about that, by the way.
It's okay.
Well, that was that was one of my, you know, again, the audience participation. You know, people are encouraged to bring props with them. You know, and we also will provide them for a donation. You know, usually like $2, and you know, you'll get like a little brown paper bag, and it will have, you know, most casts, like, they'll have rice, they'll have confetti,
water guns too, right?
They
had at one point.
Yes, I mean, well, that's some of the stuff that people might bring in themselves. But water guns, noisemakers, party hats, newspapers to put over your head, and basically that's the whole thing. You know, that's one of the things that started, was people would they'd throw rice at the screen. Like, there's a wedding scene, you know, at the very beginning of the film, and people would throw rice, and then there's a part where they sing "Happy Birthday." So that, you know, everybody puts on a party hat. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, I went on one of your birthdays.
Yes. See, that was sort of like a trick. I was able to like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have my birthday party at Rocky. So.
Yeah, otherwise, there's no way I could picture my brother going to a Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh yeah, Mike. I had been after him for quite a while to go see that. So that was very cool that he came.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, well, I think that's all the time that we have for this episode. It's a pleasure having you on the show, and I hope to see you again.
Yeah, thank you. And can I just plug one thing?
Absolutely.
It's RKO Con, and we're actually throwing a national Rocky Horror Picture Show convention this year. It's going to be August 22nd through 25th. It's going to be in Providence, Rhode Island, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We have people from all over the country coming to this. It's sort of like it's become sort of a yearly thing where we'll have a big convention, and everybody just gets together, because it's kind of become like one big close-knit community, and you know, everybody's welcome to come, though. It's not just like, you know, we try not to be like an exclusive little like clique, but we'll actually have people coming from around the world too. But that's going to be this summer. RKO Con, and you know, we have a website, rkocon.com. And con.com. And it's going to be a lot of fun. You know, we've had big. It's not going to be one of our bigger cons. Like they did a huge one for the 35th anniversary. Right now it's the 37th anniversary of the film, and but they did a huge one out in Los Angeles. They had some guests, Barry Bostwick. They had some people from Shock Treatment, some of the producers from the film. We're still working on a lot of our different arrangements, but it's still going to be a lot of fun. We're of course going to do Rocky Horror. We're going to do Repo, the Genetic Opera. We're going to do Shock Treatment, and there's going to be a lot of fun.
And on that note...
yeah, I think my plug turned into a little segment, so...
We'll see you next time. Bye.